Jerry's Real Life. Chapter 1. The Dreamer and His Scripts. Jerry McAllister had always been a storyteller. As a kid, he would scribble grand adventure tales in the margins of his school notebooks, dreaming of the day he'd see his name roll across the silver screen. Now, in his late 30s, he was still waiting for that day to come. He lived in a cramped one-bedroom apartment above a failing bookstore in a town that had long since stopped caring about the arts. His walls were lined with script pages, hundreds of them, tacked up like pieces of a puzzle he could never quite solve. He had ideas, big ideas. Science fiction epics, gritty crime dramas, heartfelt indie romances. If passion alone could make a filmmaker, Jerry would have been a legend. But passion without execution was just daydreaming. Most days, he held court at the local coffee shop, spinning tales of the next big project he was about to start. His friends had learned to nod along, sipping their lattes as he waxed poetic about lighting choices and character arcs. They'd heard it all before. "Jerry, man, you've got the vision," said Tony, his closest friend and former cinematographer. "But when's the last time you actually shot something?" Jerry waved a hand dismissively. "It's all about timing. You rush it, you ruin it. You gotta let these things marinate." Tony sighed. "You've been marinating for 10 years. The truth was, Jerry feared commitment. Starting meant finishing, and finishing meant facing the reality that maybe, just maybe, his work wasn't as brilliant as he imagined. It was safer to live in the world of what if than to risk failure in the world of what is. But something had shifted lately. His latest script, Second Chances, was a deeply personal drama about a man who let go of the love of his life in pursuit of something he thought would be better, only to realize, too late, that he'd made a mistake. His girlfriend, Melissa, had read it. She saw the writing on the wall, both figuratively and literally. "This isn't just a movie, is it?" she had asked one evening, holding the script in her hands like a premonition. Jerry hesitated. He loved Melissa. She was kind, patient, too patient. But lately, he had been distracted. There was someone new, someone who seemed to embody the inspiration he thought he needed. Just like in Second Chances, he was teetering on the edge of a choice he couldn't take back. "I just think, maybe we want different things," he finally said. Melissa nodded, her face unreadable. "Yeah, I think you're right." And just like that, she packed her things and walked out the door. Jerry told himself it was for the best. He told himself he was writing his own destiny, that his art demanded sacrifice. But as he sat alone in his apartment, staring at the pages of his script, a strange feeling settled over him. The scene he had written, the dialogue, the moment, the heartbreak, it had played out word for word. And for the first time in his life, Jerry wondered if his stories were telling him, rather than the other way around. Chapter 2. Life Imitates Art. It started small. At first, Jerry dismissed the eerie similarities between his scripts and real life as mere coincidence. The way a car swerved too close to him on Main Street, just like in Second Chances. The way he found an old coin on the sidewalk, the same rare coin his protagonist discovered in The Longest Gamble. But then, the patterns became impossible to ignore. The dialogue he overheard at the coffee shop was word for word a conversation he had written weeks ago. A local woman, someone Jerry barely knew, dyed her hair the same unusual shade as a character in The Red Siren. At night, he pored over his scripts, searching for clues, as if they held the secrets of the universe. Was he predicting the future? Or worse, was he somehow causing it? Tony was the first to notice Jerry's paranoia. "Man, you need to get out of your head," he said. "You're seeing patterns that aren't there." Jerry wasn't so sure. If it was all coincidence, why did it keep happening? Then came the moment that changed everything. He was walking home from the coffee shop when he saw her. Lily Monroe, the woman who had inspired him to leave Melissa. She was standing across the street, looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite place. In his script Second Chances, the new love interest was named Lillian Moore. Jerry felt his stomach drop. Had he written this too? Chapter 3. The Script Takes Control. Jerry tried to shake off the unease, But the coincidences continued to pile up. It was as if his scripts were no longer just ideas. They were blueprints for reality. He told himself he was imagining things, but deep down, he knew better. One night, unable to sleep, he dug through an old box of unfinished scripts, searching for answers. That's when he found one he had forgotten, The Puppeteer's Pen. It was a psychological thriller about a writer whose stories controlled the world around him. At the time, he had abandoned it, thinking it was too far-fetched. Now it felt like a warning. A creeping dread settled in as he flipped through the pages. He had written about a filmmaker, much like himself, whose ambition led him to sacrifice the people in his life for the sake of his art. In the climax, the protagonist realized too late that his scripts were dictating fate. The final scene? He was alone, his world unraveling, abandoned by the very people he had pushed away. Jerry's hand shook as he set the script down. This wasn't just storytelling anymore, it was prophecy. Desperate for clarity, he turned to Tony. "I need to stop writing," Jerry blurted out the moment they met at the coffee shop. Tony raised an eyebrow. "Come again?" "My scripts, they're coming true. Every single one. It's like they're writing my life instead of the other way around." Tony chuckled. "Man, you sound crazy." "Am I?" Jerry leaned in. "Melissa left me exactly how I wrote it in Second Chances. Lily Monroe, almost the exact name I used in the script. And now I found another script I wrote years ago about a writer losing control of his own reality." Tony's smirk faded. "That is weird." Jerry nodded. "I think I need to stop before it's too late." But deep down, he knew the real question wasn't whether he should stop. It was whether he even could. Chapter 4. The rewrite begins. Jerry made a decision. If his scripts were dictating reality, then he would take control of the narrative. He sat down at his desk, took a deep breath, and began writing. Not a tragedy, not a loss, but a new story. One where he didn't lose everything. One where he made things right. But as the words flowed onto the page, a new fear crept in. Was he truly the author of his own fate? Or was something else writing him? Chapter 5. The final draft. Jerry stared at the blinking cursor on his laptop, his fingers frozen above the keyboard. He had spent his life weaving stories, but now, the weight of every word felt heavier than ever. He wasn't just writing fiction anymore. He was writing his own fate. He had tried to change things. He had written new dialogue, new encounters, scripted moments where Melissa returned, where Lily faded into the background, where he found success without sacrifice. But nothing changed. The world continued to unfold as if bound to some unseen draft he had already penned long ago. His latest script, The Rewrite, was supposed to be his salvation. A story about a filmmaker who discovered the power of his own words and used them to correct his mistakes. But as he read through it, something sent a chill down his spine. The final scene described a man sitting alone in his dimly lit apartment, surrounded by script pages, realizing that no matter what he wrote, the ending was always the same. And then 3 knocks at the door. Jerry's breath caught in his throat. Knock, knock, knock. His heart pounded. He glanced at the script. The next line of dialogue was already written. "Jerry, it's me," came a voice from the other side of the door. "Melissa." Jerry's hands trembled. Had he finally broken the cycle? Was this the moment he had been waiting for? Slowly, he rose from his chair and stepped toward the door, each footfall echoing in the quiet apartment. He reached for the doorknob, hesitating for just a moment. Then he turned it. The door swung open, and the screen faded to black.